Max Verstappen experienced one of his worst races of the season after Red Bull made changes to his car, despite him clearly stating he was satisfied with its performance during FP1 and FP2. The three-time world champion found himself unable to challenge the drivers ahead, and if this trend continues, it might push the Dutchman to seriously consider leaving Red Bull, especially in light of Helmut Marko's recent comments. Meanwhile, Norris managed to reduce Verstappen's championship lead by 3 more points, with Leclerc not far behind either. Has Baku proven that Red Bull's dominance is fading, and should Verstappen be contemplating a switch to another team? From Max's point of view, the Azerbaijan Grand Prix was one of his least competitive weekends. The fact that he was both outqualified and significantly outperformed by his teammate highlights how difficult it was for him to manage the car over 51 laps. The numbers speak for themselves. Verstappen's winless streak now extends to 7 races, with only 2 podium finishes in Zandvoort and Silverstone, where he secured P2. It's important to note that Baku has traditionally been one of Perez's preferred tracks, but for Verstappen to struggle behind Norris, who was on worn tires, even with the DRS advantage, is highly unusual for the 3-time world champion. There seems to be a valid reason behind Verstappen's unusual lack of competitiveness, and it largely boils down to the team's decisions. Reflecting on the Baku weekend, Verstappen did not hold back, stating, "The car was simply bad again, no speed at all. On the medium tires, we experienced more degradation than usual. The hard tires were slightly better, but I got stuck behind Albon and Lando, and then the brakes overheated, forcing me to step back." He added that the car's performance improved slightly towards the end, but he found it very difficult to drive. "During qualifying, I already noticed that the changes we made didn't work. I couldn't brake properly, nor could I attack the corners. The car felt like a go-kart in slow corners, bouncing all over the place." After the first 2 practice sessions, Verstappen was confident in the car. He even remarked that, while not perfect, he understood its limits and expected a competitive weekend ahead. However, once the team made setup adjustments, Verstappen found himself lost, which he openly discussed right after the qualifying session. Commenting on why he was over 0.6 off Leclerc's pole position time and only managed to qualify P6, Verstappen explained, "From the first lap in Q1, I felt the car had regressed. We made changes, and the car became incredibly unpredictable and difficult to drive. It's disappointing because you're always trying to improve, but we went too far." It's also worth mentioning some mitigating factors from the Baku weekend. Norris experienced a rare disqualification from Q1, the first of the season, while Hamilton took a new power unit just hours before the race, forfeiting his P7 starting spot and starting from the pit lane instead. Judging from Russell's ease in overtaking Verstappen on hard tires during the second stint, it wouldn't be a stretch to think Hamilton could have finished ahead of Verstappen too. Verstappen constantly complained about the rear of the car, while at the start of the race, he also reported that the front lacked grip, telling his race engineer, Lambe, that the car just won't turn in. All in all, it was a tough weekend for Verstappen, who hoped to take advantage of Norris's poor starting position at P17, which was further boosted to P15 due to penalties for Gasly and Hamilton. Instead, it turned out quite the opposite. Adding to the disappointment is the fact that Norris finished the race ahead of Verstappen. While many expected this given the competitiveness of the McLaren MCL38, it's still painful to acknowledge, considering there were 9 places separating them on the grid. Looking ahead, the upcoming races don't seem too favorable for Red Bull either, especially Singapore, where the RB19, despite its dominance, failed to win last year. Both cars were knocked out in Q2. With the RB20 struggling on bumpy tracks, an intriguing weekend awaits. This situation opens up further questions about whether Verstappen is receiving the treatment he deserves from the team. In recent races, the car has struggled with performance, and despite his vocal concerns, Verstappen's feedback wasn't fully heeded, partly because of the races he managed to win, like in Spain and Canada, where victory seemed unlikely. With 7 races left and 3 sprint events still to come, Verstappen's lead over Norris, now down to just 59 points, could evaporate faster than anticipated. A move away from Red Bull could become a more attractive option, and right now Aston Martin seems like the obvious choice. Helmut Marko fueled these rumors, suggesting that Max will race where he can win. Aston Martin boasts the most modern factory, with a new wind tunnel coming online next year, and they'll be powered by Honda engines. Everything fits, and historically, wherever Adrian Newey goes, success follows. It's hard to imagine this will be any different at Aston Martin. Verstappen himself has acknowledged that he can win titles with Red Bull, provided they overcome the challenges in this championship. However, he hasn't ruled out a move in the future, stating, "I have other worries right now with the RB20's performance, but maybe Aston Martin is something to consider in the future." This marks a shift in Verstappen's attitude, considering that a few races ago, he was firmly committed to seeing out his Red Bull contract, which runs until 2028. But with Marco hinting that Verstappen may not even be a guaranteed pick for 2026, let alone 2028. It's clear Aston Martin will do everything in their power to lure Max to their team. Red Bull is also set to begin work with a new wind tunnel soon, but for now they're relying on a 70-year-old facility. Adding to their challenges is the sporting penalty and restrictions limiting the number of wind tunnel runs and CFD simulations they can conduct. These obstacles make it even more difficult to extract additional performance from the RB20. Marco has already conceded that the Constructors' Championship is not a priority due to McLaren's dominance, and the team will instead focus on helping Max in the Drivers' Championship. But with Verstappen's lead shrinking and Perez unable to support him in Baku, it's clear that the Dutchman was not competitive enough to challenge his teammate. Many discussions are expected within Red Bull, involving high-profile figures like Verstappen's father, Jos, who has publicly criticized Christian Horner for the team's current situation. The general consensus is that Red Bull should be more competitive from Austin onwards. The team can count on other contenders taking points from Norris, including his teammate Piastri, but 2025 might tell a different story. If Red Bull's struggles continue, Verstappen and the team may not even be part of the championship fight. Given all of this, do you think Verstappen should consider a new team starting in 2026? Let us know your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to click on the video that's appearing on your screen right now.